November 18th, 2021 Inspector General Committee meeting to order. And Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
State Attorney Ehrenberg.
Al Johnson is sitting in for State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg.
Chair Cruz.
Here.
Commissioner DeGraffenreich.
Here.
Public Defender Howitt. Vice Chair Kreidel.
Present.
Commissioner Kugler. Commissioner Romano.
Okay, thank you very much. Do any commissioners have any opening remarks? No. Okay. We'll go on to item 4, approval of the Inspector General Committee meeting minutes from May 13th, 2021. Can I have a motion?
I move.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner DeGraffenreich, second by Vice Chair Kreidel. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. General Carey. Good to see you. It's been a long 6 months.
Since we've been around.
General, could you check your mic just to make sure? There it is. Thank you.
Okay. So start out, I always like to start with our mission, just to, again, to review, what are we all about? Again, the Inspector General's office, this is the standard mission you will see at the local, state, federal Inspector Generals. We're here to provide independent and objective oversight, insight and foresight in promoting integrity, efficiency, and overall effectiveness in government. Ultimately, to enhance the public trust in government, which is needed, again, now, I think more than ever. The public needs to have trust in government, that we have checks and balances and people out there guarding our taxpayer dollars. So here's the roadmap of where we're going to go today. I'm going to talk a little bit about our personnel and then our activities, budget, plans and activities for the future, and then summarize overall some of the accomplishments that the office has, what we've done over our existence. So, new teammates on the OIG. And I'm not sure any of our teammates are present here, so none of them are present in the meeting today. Frank, and yes, that's true, first name Frank, last name Frank, came to the office and a great addition to our contract oversight and evaluation office. He came from the county, has some great experience in financing. He came from the Environmental Resources Management Office, and again, already just doing great work for us. Lizette McGowan, new investigator. She came from, had worked in the county's Office of Equal Opportunity, and she has experience in investigations. Chelsea Flint is an investigator, and she came from the Guardium Ad Litem program doing investigations. Hank Nagel is an interesting new hire that I think the only one who would, that might ring a bell is Commissioner Vice Chair Kreidel. Hank, when I came here almost 8 years ago, was in charge of our contract oversight division. And he was a great leader on the team. I was sorry I lost him within a year. He went up to be the chief internal auditor for Martin County. I'll wait.
Can the record reflect that Commissioner Howitt has showed up? Welcome.
Good morning. So Hank, again, he left for the opportunity to become the chief auditor for Martin County, which he still lives in Martin County, was the chief auditor there for a number of years. And fortunately for us, he's back in the office now, and he's a senior auditor, and so he not only is bringing with him the experience he had while working here, but the new gained experience for the number of years as a chief officer of Martin County, and so he's back with us and happy to have him. Nicole Spence, she came down clear from New York City. So she was an auditor up in New York City, and she's moved down here. And again, so now we're really happy to have her on the team with her experience in auditing and again, from out of state. So that's the new members on the team. Now, some staff accomplishments. We do have Chris Dykeman here. Chris, you remember Chris was been one of our investigators, done a lot of great investigations over the years. When Anthony Bennett left to be the deputy IG of the city of Atlanta, we promoted Chris, and so Chris is the new Investigator 3 supervisor and doing a great job. We also have other accomplishments over the time. DJ Lomistois, he became a certified Inspector General investigator. Chanel Breathwaite became a certified Inspector General auditor. That's at our Jacksonville Institute that went this last few months ago. Tiffany Thomas became a certified fraud examiner. And Calinthia Dillard, she became the chair of the Florida Bar's Professional Ethics Committee. So this is statewide responsibility. The co-chair of the Palm Beach County Bar's Professionalism Committee, and she was also selected to this very prestigious group that probably a number of you know about, is Leadership Florida. So she is now in the Leadership Florida Cornerstone Class of '69. So again, great group of folks, and congratulations to everybody for the accomplishments during this time. Okay, here's where we're going to go with activities. I'm going to talk a little bit about our COVID activities, and I'm going to talk about them. I'm speaking about them a little differently, just not the 6 months, because I want to show you what we've done total since COVID started last March, some of our activities, and then go into our investigations and contract oversight, audits, and training. So let's talk about COVID-related activities. Again, the county, and when I say the county, that's the county and the municipalities total, have received over $750 million in federal and state funds to help in the COVID relief funding. And they're expending these in a variety of different ways and trying to get it out quickly to people in need. Things like business grants for small businesses, grants to help them out, rental assistance, food assistance. And so we've been continue with the county in helping to provide some oversight to the programs, and then oversight you'll see in investigations to some of the people who have received these funds. Unfortunately, we found there's been a number of people who have fraudulently filled out applications for business grants. There's a lot of rental assistance problems that we've seen with people filling out applications, and it looks like they're not eligible for that assistance. So again, we're working with the county to provide that independent oversight of dispersing these funds. Now here's a summary of everything we've done since March, since COVID hit, in related to oversight of COVID activities. 87 complaints and correspondences come in. And I just want to say, if you count up below that 87, all of those things that we're doing, the activities, that equals 63. It doesn't equal 87. So you might wonder, where's these other things that's come in the door? Well, there's a number of complaints and things that come in that funnel that do not end up in Inspector General actions or even referrals. And I'll give you some examples. Like we had one complaint with a person who lost his job. We get complaints like that. I lost my job, this isn't fair. You know, I'm complaining to the IG. Well, there's really no place that either we handle or somebody that referral that a complaint-wise that could really handle that, other than letting them know there's relief activities available out there for them. We've had complaints still that come in that we still that have went to multiple agencies. They shotgun them out. So they'll complain to us, but they also complain to the state attorney's office, the state, federal offices, and we're on a list of many people. And if we look at that and we see, oh, it's already going to the right person, the right agency, we'll respond back to that complainant and say, look, here's on that whole list of folks that you've complained to, that's not under our jurisdiction, but the office that you've complained to here, we believe that's the right office and they should be taking care of you. And then we have redundant complaints. There's a lot of times that sometimes you have a few people sometimes more than a few, will complain about the same incident. So it's really multiple complaints, but result in one action. And then still, there are some of these complaints that we just got in that Evangeline Rentz out here, her and Ticia Morris are still working on to see, what are we going to do with those. And just to review, that you'll see some of these result in evaluations, some turn into investigations, some are preliminary inquiries, and there's a number of things, and I just want to review the bucket, how this works. When complaints and correspondence come in, it's kind of like a funnel that comes down. We get a lot of complaints, hundreds of complaints. Well, the first and important thing that we have is Angie takes these complaints and she looks at every single one of those and makes an evaluation. So the investigation process begins with, what do we do with this? Again, many of those are not in our jurisdiction or they are referred someplace else. But if it looks like this is our jurisdiction, then the next step that it goes to often is a preliminary inquiry that you'll see. It's not a full-blown investigation, but we're investigating it to see, does this have enough legs in it to turn into an investigation? And then it goes down, yes, we're going to investigate. It's assigned a formal investigator to launch, or it may be referred over to our audit staff for an audit. Complaints sometimes come in and eventually turns into audits. Or it could be turned over, go over to our contract oversight and evaluation, and they take it over as a systematic look at the process. So that's kind of the process of the IG process of the intake. And that's standard throughout any IG that you see. That's kind of how it works. So 87 complaints and intakes. You can see we've had quite a few. 9 completed reviews and evaluations. 2 open evaluations we're doing right now that Tony Montero's office is looking at different programs of CARES Act funding and American Rescue Act, how that's being administered. 5 completed investigations. Again, 13 open preliminary inquiries. And there's going to be more because, again, and most of those, unfortunately, those preliminary inquiries and investigations are about people who have filled out improperly the rental assistance applications and have received rental assistance improperly. 16 open investigations, and again, 18 referrals to other law enforcement agencies. Now again, on all of these, our investigations, we're working right up front with a lot of law enforcement agencies. Of course, the state attorney's office is aware of it. Mike Rochelle, he's copied on any subpoenas, and it lists exactly what the nature of the investigation we're doing. So the state attorney's aware of it. We've been in touch with the FBI, FDLE, local law enforcement, the sheriff's department, so a wide range of folks. We've also coordinated with our federal inspector generals who are looking at all this. The federal inspector generals, particularly the OIG for Treasury and the Small Business Administration. So we've been working and communicating with them. So busy. So just to show you, this has taken up a lot of our time of activities related to COVID oversight. Now let's get into some details on investigations and intake. This is a chart of our complaints of wrongdoing that has come in over the past 6 months compared to the previous 6 months. Now, a question that you might have, if you look, complaints have gone up, but our activities have gone down. Well, there's a number of reasons for this, and if you look pattern over the years, there's really not a correlation or a pattern between the number of complaints that come in as IG activities come up. Sometimes they go up and go down. The reason being, for example, a number of those complaints, like if we get complaints of people who've lost my job, well, that's no activity. You get a lot of complaints that just does not create IG activities. And then again, sometimes just within this 6 months, we receive, for example, up around 10 complaints just with one city. It hit the news, some things are happening in the city of Pahokee, And so we get 10 complaints all about the same thing. So sometimes you get a lot of complaints, and so there's, again, not necessarily a correlation between number of complaints and resultant IG activity, and I hope I explained why that happens. Ongoing investigations, as you can see, we're up on investigations in progress right now as opposed to the last 6 months. 16 of those 26, again, are COVID-related right now that are ongoing. Again, reports that have gone up, or referrals also because of the COVID activity have gone up. Our 6 reports, 4 of the 6 reports are COVID-related. So our investigative staff is quite busy. So now we're going to get into the details of some of the investigations themselves that we did during this period. The first 2 are non-COVID related, and this first one was related to the fire rescue, the county fire rescue department. The complaint came in that one of the fire rescue chiefs, and you're probably aware of this, but the nature of the rank structure in the fire rescue department, just because somebody is a chief, that doesn't mean they are the chief or the head. That's a rank within the department that they have. So it's a senior ranked chief. So the complaint was one of the chiefs was holding training classes for fire rescue employees, and some of them were under his supervision in his rating chain for a fee at the fire rescue facilities in violation of the fire rescue policy. Now, again, he was giving classes to folks, and it's interesting the way these classes worked, that you didn't have to pay the chief for the classes unless you were promoted. So if you weren't promoted after taking these classes, you didn't have to pay. But if you did, the price was $7,500 if you were promoted. So we found that that activity was in violation with the county's employment with the fire rescue employment practice, and we also referred it over to the state and the local commission on ethics. The next report that we put out was on Delray, and this was an important report here because some serious allegations were in the news and came out that the basic allegations with it, people had reported that they were sick from drinking water and that there was a cover-up, basically. That's what the allegation was, that the mayor, the senior staff, they knew about this and they did not report this. Well, that's a serious allegation. So we did a detailed, extensive investigation. We had 2 investigators on it. We had DJ on that and another investigator on that, Gene Areola, who has since gone down to be an investigator at Broward County Inspector General. She lives down that neck of the woods. But so we looked into that, and the net result of what we found is there was one case after interviewing many people, thousands of emails reviewing that came in. We found one email that came in of a citizen that reported that they believed that they were sick, and they believed it was a result of the water they were drinking from Delray. Delray, what their obligation is, once the city, or any city has a complaint of this, they're obligated to notify the state Department of Health. Well, they put out a report within a short period of that email with the supervisor who this came up to, whose name was copied on this report, that went to the state that said, we've had no reports of people who reported they've been sick from drinking water. So again, we investigated and tried to find out who knew what, when, and what we found, the report came in and came to an individual, to the supervisor who was the manager of the water and sewer department, and we could not find the reason. His name was on that report, but he did not, that stopped with him. It did not go with anybody who signed that report, the more senior people in the city. It did not go farther than that we could tell from him. He had retired by the time that we were doing this investigation. We interviewed him, and again, he said he did not recall the email, because we showed him the email that went to him. We showed him the report that his name, he was on this report that went to the state, and he, again, said he did not recall. But it stopped there. So we did find, the allegation was, we found that people did know and did not report it. But I would say the good news of that is that we did not find, as the allegations were coming in, that senior people were involved, elected officials were involved, and that there was a cover-up at this level. We did not find that. So a lot of times what IGs find, what we find to the opposite, so we're not just here to catch the bad guys, we're here to find the truth. That's what IGs are all about, is seeking and finding the facts and the truth of the matter and making it public. Now we're going to go into COVID-related activities. This is one we had, it was not an investigation, this was a review, an investigative review or an inspection that our investigative division assigned an investigator to do. We looked at looked at the general contracts when this came out, the cleaning activities. We wanted to make sure, okay, when the companies that we're hiring to clean our spaces, after there's been a COVID relate, somebody's reported, I have COVID, I have to go down, so they have to come in and do special cleaning. So we looked at the contracts, we looked at 3 of them to see, does it seem like they're cleaning? And are they doing this thing properly? And are they getting the proper money? How's the trails going out? And again, we found that the contractors complied with the cleaning requirements. And I want to specify, what does that mean? They were cleaning, so that was not the issue. The issue that we found when we said generally, they were not always keeping adequate paperwork of a list of where are you doing all these cleaning processes, because we tried to find out, okay, where's a list of every place, every complaint that you've had and cleaned, and so everybody was not keeping complete and accurate records to show where they clean. And so the contracts were generally that they would clean up, and so they were not paid per incident to come in to clean. And so that's why a lot of times they weren't keeping those accurate records. So now we're going into the investigations. And again, this first investigation we had was from a Belgrade hotel owner, the company, Kana BG, that they submitted, the allegation that came to us, that they submitted Restart Business Grant, an application with untrue and inaccurate statements, which resulted in receiving the improper grant from the county. And why use that specific terminology? You might wonder, what's untrue and inaccurate? That is the exact language on the page when a business owner signs up, that they have to verify, that it says, I verify or I attest that this information that I provided is true and accurate. So we use that exact terminology. So we found out that they did. They filed paperwork that they had already received PPP federal dollars, and you're supposed to, it's a requirement to disclose that. And if you disclose that, that will affect whether you get the loan, how much you got, and how much money you got. They did not disclose that federal dollars that they had received. And so we recommended to the county that the business reimburse them over $15,000, and the business owner did reimburse the county for the funds that they received. Now we looked in, the same business had another hotel under another business name. So it was another business name, and we found the same thing basically happened in South Bay at the hotel, that they filled out an application for that hotel to receive the business that they did not rate because they did not disclose the PPP funds. And we recommended it was a lesser amount, $3,750, that the county seek reimbursement, and that the business did repay the county. Now, again, all of these we've notified law enforcement on all of these cases that we're dealing with here, so they're aware of it, along with the state attorney's office. And then now the next one here was a rental assistance. And this is the tip of the iceberg. The next 6 months I'm here, you're going to see that there is a lot of rental assistance, unfortunately, fraudulent activities, what looks to be going on out there of people filing rental assistance. In fact, I think there's people who are offering assistance to people who are wanting to get false documents to get this. And so, again, we're working closely with law enforcement on this, and we're hoping somebody will pick this up and there'll be criminal action eventually taken on this. So we had an applicant, again, that filled out an application to the county. And part of the requirement in here that you have to verify that you don't have $5,000 of liquid assets. That basically, I need this money because I don't have any money, any place to pay my rent. Well, we looked and we found the person did have $5,000 at the time of the application. And so they submitted a false report, and we made a recommendation to the county that they recoup that $10,000 that applicant received. And if you notice in this case, I say applicant, because state law requires that we can't disclose people who are receiving rental assistance. That's one of the areas that state law protects people who are receiving rental assistance. So our reports, when these come out, will not reveal the names, though we have those names, and again, they're referred to law enforcement, but in the reports, the names will not be revealed.
Quick question for you. To the extent that there is some law enforcement activity within the next 6-month reporting period, are you able to update us with what, if anything, happened?
Yes, as things happen, we'll make sure, because we put our reports out, and particularly if law enforcement takes, particularly if there's any arrest or anything, we'll probably not only notify you, we'll put out a press release for the committee and the public. So we'll definitely keep you up as this progresses. Thank you. Contract oversight and evaluations. Again, that's Tony Montero's back here, taking over that and doing a great job. And I failed to mention, Stu, I'm sorry I didn't recognize you. Stu Robinson's head of investigations and intake, and that has done a great job too. But Tony, contract oversight and evaluations. Again, one report this period of time that we've got ongoing, and that's a major report. You're going to see, as I dig down into the details, a lot of contract oversight and evaluation is, like I say, that iceberg. It's under the water and assisting, educating, preventing things from going on that they're involved with. Just so much of their activities involved with that type of activity, and I'll explain that. For example, they oversee all this type of county money. This is where all the money is being put out in contracts and procurement activities, and they attend meetings. They're showing up at meetings of procurement meetings, selection meetings. They're monitoring contracts. If they see something, if they have questions up front, they get with the county and the cities and work with them. And again, they're that preventative aspect of the IG to prevent things from going wrong. And so they do a lot of activities of working with them. And that 4% of county and municipal money, that's money that's combined. That's actually the COVID and the surtax money that both the county and the cities pull out of that pot right there. They've issued a couple, and again, this is that proactive approach that they do. They issue a lot of tips and trends of things that we've learned along the way. One, again, on local preferences for soliciting state-funded construction and service. About when the state laws change, we want to make sure that folks are informed who are involved in this so they don't unintentionally violate state law, and then we have a complaint and we're investigating, so we're trying to proactively educate folks before things happen. And the same thing happened with this tips and trends on use of drones. There's some police departments that have drones and that use drones, and they had the state law change on that of how they should be reporting and tracking that. And again, Tiffany did the first one, and Frank already, he came right in and he did the one on the drones. Again, I mentioned earlier we have 2 open reviews that are COVID-related. We're following that CARES Act money with the county and the grants. We're following all where that's going. There's, again, the American Rescue Act, which is separate from the CARES Act. 519 plus $1 million of funds that they're tracking. Where's this going? How are we doing with that money to make sure that it's trying to be spent properly? So they're tracking that. And this is just to break up to show where some of that money is going and where they're providing the oversight of it. And that's on the American Rescue Plan specifically. Again, just a few things. Again, and you'll see a lot of this activity. When our annual report comes out, I'm going to put a little more details about this in our annual report of some of those activities that our contract oversight and evaluations are doing. Again, complaints. A lot of those complaints that come in, over the past 6 months, they've done 5 actions, 5 reviews based on complaints that's come in. So it's a lot of times it's not about a person, it's about a process, or it's real more contract and procurement related. So a number of times, instead of having an investigator look at it, we'll let Tony and his crew of experts in procurement and contracting, they'll take a look at this. And again, a lot of these, they do not result in a report. They result in, usually, if they're not founded, they'll usually go back in a letter that goes back to they'll go to the complainant and back to management that contract oversight looked at this and we did not find any violations and give the reasons why. So that's that underwater activity. Again, monitoring, reviewing, advising, and looking at that performance cycle that a lot of things are doing. And there's still, I think last month I told you of an office, there's offices around the nation that contact our office about how do you do, IGs more and more getting into contract and procurement oversight. More and more, that has not been a specialty for inspector generals. The 2 core things that IG does are investigations and audits and sometimes inspections, but that procurement has been a unique thing that we have done here in Palm Beach County and Miami based on the Miami IG model. And very few offices have done it. So more and more IGs are getting into this and the word's out and they're coming to us. And just during this time, Miami Beach OIG is trying to stand up. They've got an IG down there in that city and they're trying to stand up a procurement office. So they came to us. Tony's working with them and providing them information about our SOPs and how do we do this. So he's doing that in outreach and helping other folks. They also did, this is a thing that didn't result in a report, but it was a letter. Some of the types of things we do is a limited scope inspection of Wellington as they're building a skate park out there, and Tiffany goes out and checks in progress. Again, how is this going? How are we not only procurement side, but now in the actual implementation side as they're building that park, are they doing it within the parameters that they designed in the contract? So she went out and about and is looking at that, and that's some of our Surtex money, the types of things we're overviewing. Now, audits. Again, audits under Hillary Beaujean, and last time I told you she's been doing a great job, Hillary, for our audit division. See, about the same. We've got 13 ongoing audits, similar to last month. Reports, the money, so that's this 6 months compared to last 6 months in the audit world. I'll get down to some of the specific reports. Now, we finished up, there's a couple manatee reports, and just for background, these manatee audits from the different cities, this also, we call it manatee, it's money basically that the county has, and they provide to offer to some municipalities to pay police officers overtime or on their time to do extra enforcement on the waters for protection of our manatees. So it's for extra visibility and enforcement for protection of our manatees out there, which are endangered. And so it's money that the county provides. But with that money, there's a contract, and that's why we call the interlocal agreement they have with the cities who do this, with West Palm Beach, and we found some significant problems in the way they were accounting or not accounting for those dollars. And West Palm Beach owed the county some good dollars back because they just weren't accounting. They were giving police money that the police were actually working, but they were working for the city, not the county, on the water in accordance with the agreement. So we thought if there's a significant problem here, we need to look at some other cities. So we did some other city audit manatee audits. And so what we found, generally nothing to the extent that we found in West Palm Beach. We found some minor problems in the town of Jupiter. Jennifer Timms did this one, that they didn't always include the documents in their agreement, so they're not keeping all of the documents, but not to a great degree that we've had. And two, this has these audits, their overtime in Jupiter particularly, this has no relationship with right now there's a lawsuit, an ongoing lawsuit between some, I think, involving the police department about overtime that they were not getting, and I think that's gone to the state level, but that has no relationship with this audit and this overtime. And we also found we did the same thing, similar type of audit in North Palm Beach, and we found again that basically that the officers did not properly check in or check out during shifts. Minor money, the question cost there that we found, that $15,000, again, question cost, if I could, let me just review our definitions. And then these are IG definitions, state, federal, local IGs use these similar definitions. Question cost are cost or financial obligations that are questioned because of a violation of a provision of law, regulation, contract, grant, policy or procedure, or documented expenditures of funds. A finding that such cost or financial obligation is not supported by adequate documentation, or a finding that expenditures for the intended purposes are unnecessary or unreasonable. And as such, not all question costs are indicative of potential fraud or waste. So in other words, question costs, sometimes they are wasted money, but a lot of our question costs we find that, I like to put it in the most basic terms, we're not accounting for our dollars properly. We're not keeping track for the public. As public servants, we owe the county, and particularly when we're showing they have a policy. Here's what the regulation states. If you're going to do this, you got to have a receipt. You have to have the proper bookkeeping of this, accounting for our taxpayer dollars. And so a lot of our question costs, like here, is because cities or the county is not properly accounting for our taxpayer dollars. Not necessarily because it's wasted or it's questioned legally, but it's questioned from a policy perspective or a interlocal agreement perspective, and that was the case here. But we did find $3,000 that the city does owe the county back because, again, they were paying the officer for time that really he was working for the department and are not accounted for on the water enforcing manatee, the manatee interlocal. So that would be the last. We've looked down enough of these to find there's some problems in the cities that had it, but we've looked at most of the cities now, not all that is receiving this manatee dollars, and so this will probably be the last one that you'll see of these types of audits. Now we looked at Palm Beach. This was one, again, this is one of a number of times the cities come to us and they asked us to do this audit. It's required of their internal controls and data security. So they asked us to do this audit. We did this for them, and we found that generally that they had some good controls, that they were adequate as far as the things I list out there: segregation of duties, detecting misuse. So they were generally adequate. We found they were generally doing a good time. We did find some weaknesses, internal controls about data security, and we made a recommendation to the city. and they acknowledged it, and they put the recommendations in place. So that's a good example of cities reaching out to us to ask for help. We did an audit of Lake Worth travel. And again, this was based on a complaint that had came in. And so it seemed more likely fitting for our audit to do an audit of Lake Worth Beach. And again, we found that travel expenditures, yes, we found that they did lack adequate documentation and proper approvals. They weren't in compliance with their own policies, their travel. The city manager's discretionary fund for purchasing card purchases lacked a review oversight, which is never a good thing. I guess people ask, what is the most basic thing that anybody can do for internal controls? The most basic thing you should do is segregation of duties, or never have one person alone have authority to spend dollars. Somebody else needs to see it, whether they approve it, but somebody else needs to be able to see that, have visibility of that. Lack of adequate written guidance for the computer system process, and complete and consistent records were not maintained for travel. So we made recommendations for them to get their house in order a little bit. We did not find, I guess here's a good thing about this, we did not find there was fraudulent activity or people were traveling fraudulently or using the taxpayer dollars improperly in that sense, from a fraudulent perspective, or signs of that. Training and outreach. Again, here's just a chart of some of the places we're starting to pick up government. We're starting to pick up at times as we come in, as this COVID problems come up and down, we started to get out more and more, and then we kind of tightened up again. So we're starting to get out more and more to the public. I'll talk about those 13 areas of national and state type of outreach and presentations we're doing on the following slide. This is just an example of some of the places that I've spoken and that we've worked at the last 6 months. Rotaries, speak at a number of Rotary clubs during this time. The tips and trends internally, providing lessons to some of our cities of lessons in procurement, red flags to watch out for fraud. We spoke at the NIGP, is the National Institute for Public Procurement. Now, if you're wondering, isn't that interesting? It's the National Institute for Public Procurement, but it's not, where's the G? Well, I researched this, I just had to figure that out. Originally, this organization was the National Institute of Government Purchasing, but they changed their name. They kept because they were so well known as NIGP, they kept that as the kind of the moniker there, but they're really, their name is the National Institute of Public Procurement, because it's really much broader than purchasing. So anyway, we spoke at the local chapter. The Institute, we had our Institute for the Association of Inspector Generals in Jacksonville in August. And I think I told you last time that I'm on the national board, and I was selected, I'm now the chair of the professional certification board, which translates into I'm also the chair of the Institute, all of our certification courses. And so I taught down there a number of courses in some of the classes. Calinthia, she taught classes to a number of the courses of our IGs who are being certified on ethics and cognitive bias. Tony taught classes on government procurement, contracting, and process mapping. So I enlisted the team, and they volunteered, I think, to help instruct some of our up-and-coming certified national inspectors generals. Okay, now we're going to shift from 6 months I was talking about to just, I'm going to very briefly, just to let you know, okay, here's a chart I thought I'd give you on the annual, what we did over the year. Now, the first 6 months we were reaccredited by the State Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission. And just a few months ago in September, we were peer-reviewed by the Association of Inspectors Generals. So every 3 years, we are reviewed in detail by 2 different organizations, and this answers the question that sometimes I'm asked, you know, who inspects the inspectors? Well, we have 2 professional organizations, and boy, IG's inspecting other IGs, that's very detailed, so they don't cut you breaks. And again, both of them were proud to say when the accreditation, 100% compliance they stated, and then the peer review, they met all current and relevant standards in their terms. So we were peer reviewed, professional certifications, maintaining our credibility. You see, we push certifications in the office because we've got a small crew, but I mean, our folks have to be professionals. I mean, these are the top professionals. I'm proud of all of them. And again, we get those accreditations themselves. Again, I talked about myself on the Association of Inspector Generals, my role, but you may not know, I'm sure you don't know, I'm going to let you know that Chris was a founding member of the chapter, of the local chapter, of the Palm Beach chapter of the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. And he's the vice president of the local chapter. So Chris started that chapter up from scratch here in Palm Beach County and is the vice president. Hillary is on the board. She's an officer on the board of directors, the secretary of the Palm Beach County Institute of Internal Auditors. So they're involved outside of the office of things we're doing not only to make us good, but outside of the office, helping the profession, expanding our professional outreach. And then, so that, I think is all I'll talk about that one. Just a kind of a slide on some dollars and cents and things that we've done. This is over the year, in the total year of 2021. And you'll see this again, and I'm going to go in more detail next month by the IG charter. I'm required to put out an annual report by the end of the calendar year. So it's in draft form. It's not enough to, put out, it's almost soup. It's going to be there. So within by mid-December, you'll be seeing our annual IG report. And this is one of the charts that you'll see, just a summary of the cost type of things we find, the money identified, potential savings, hotline calls that's come in, reports, referrals, recommendations that we've made. Budget and staffing. This is one that you've seen a number of times. Just to talk a little bit about this, our budget is $3.5 million this year. And of that budget, just a comparison, $3.5 million, our annual budget. Well, that's compared with around $7 billion plus annual budgets of the organizations, agencies that we oversee. County, the cities, Solid Waste Authority, Children's Services Council. If you combine their annual budgets together, it's over $7 billion. So $3 million to provide that oversight for $7 billion. Employees that all of the agencies, we have 27 people, and those 27 people provide oversight for over 14,500 employees of all the cities, the county, and that's just the full-time employees. That's not part-time employees. We also have jurisdiction over contracted activities. That's just the full-time employees. You compare that, our office, 27 people with Miami. Their office, they have an annual budget of $6 billion, 40 people, and 5 attorneys. So particularly Calinthia, you can see she's quite busy. So they have 5 attorneys down there in Miami-Dade. Okay, where are we going? Plan, so we're starting to head down that road to finish it up. Our vision statement, still valid, and we like it, again, to promote positive change in the county. It's not about just getting the bad people. It's about helping good people make government better. So it's creating positive change throughout the local governments and public organizations with an inspired and skilled team, of which I think we have it. We've got an inspired team. I'm proud to say on our recent, the September peer review that we had from the Association of Inspector Generals. They interview separately, apart from me, all the individuals they could find in my office and people out. And again, they expressed to me in the outbrief, it's like unanimous high morale. People like comments. They said people like working here. They learn here. They learn from their peers. It's not just about they learn from each other and like working in teams. So we have an inspired, and you see from the certifications, we have a skilled team that strives for not only continuous improvement in the people we oversee, but in our office. We're always looking at ways we can do things better. Plans and objectives. Again, you're going to see our annual report come out here within the next month. Execute our audit plan, adapt and overcome as we change through COVID. A couple things I did not put on here was outreach. Now that, again, I started outreach last time. I tried to start, and then unfortunately, COVID hit us again and restricted us. So I'm starting my outreach campaign again, trying to meet with community groups. I'm going to be going out and meeting in city councils to try and get in and just to say hello, here's who we are. Again, I just spoke at the Rotary. I said just last night I was at the Businessmen's Club of the Palm Beaches. Tonight I'm speaking at Palm Beach Atlantic University in an ethics class that they have there at the graduate level. So I'm going to be getting out more and more as we hopefully open up here now with COVID. And there's another issue that I should mention that comes up. My contract ends in June 28th of this next year, 2022. And so, I want to let you know, I plan on putting in for a new contract. So I still think I've got something going here. I love what I do. I love my job. I love Palm Beach County. I think we're making a difference here in Palm Beach County. And we're just really getting up, a full head of steam. So, I think I've got a lot still to offer. And so I'm going to put in, and I hope I get support. But I put in your packets at the end. I was just reviewing yesterday and thinking I was going to say that. So I reviewed the ordinance again. And the ordinance, our IG ordinance, states that the IG's term of contract is 4 years it's renewed every 4 years, or it ends at 4 years. And here it is, quote, "At least 6 months prior to the end of the contract term, the Inspector General Committee will determine whether or not to renew the contract for an additional 4 years, and shall promptly notify the IG of its decision. And in the event that the committee elects not to renew the contract, the Inspector General Committee shall promptly convene as necessary to solicit candidates for and to select a new Inspector General." So anyway, I'm notifying you 6 months is coming up. Next, that'll be exactly 6 months will be next December 22nd, I believe it is, or the 23rd. So I'd like to ask if you're willing to renew my contract.
Okay, thank you, General Carey. Any discussion from the committee?
General Carey, are you asking us to vote on a contract, or are you asking us to express intent?
Well, I think, let's go back to the actual word. It says prior to determine to renew a contract. So the contract, here's the process. Let me explain how the process goes. The process, I get my old contract, I look at it, I work it up. I coordinate with the county's HR department, the general counsel. We go back and forth on that. And then once we're set, I send that to the chair of the IG committee. And the chair of the IG committee for the committee will be one of the signers at the county, the legal, HR, me, the chair of the IG committee. And then that contract then goes to the Board of County Commissioners for approval. So that the contract will not come in front of the entire committee unless you want it to. But in the past history, the last at least what we did the last time, the chair signed for the committee. So it's really, you're not approving a contract, you're approving that you want to renew the contract. And in doing that, then I would assume, I think the best way, that you're empowering the chair when the contract comes to sign that for you.
Okay, so.
Does that help clarify?
Would it not, would this not be best to originate from HR, and who would then coordinate it with our committee?
The HR will coordinate with, HR coordinates with, it usually, as you know, last time, you were the chair, and they did that. They coordinate, so when HR does this, they coordinate with the chair. But I believe last time you signed it for the committee as the chair, and it did not come back to the committee to pass out the sign. You signed it for the committee.
Right, and that's correct. So I would think that as opposed to us discussing this now, I think that you should wave a red flag in front of HR.
Yeah.
And let them initiate that process, because it's as much ministerial.
Yes.
As it is renewing it.
Yes. And last time, that's what they said. About 6 months prior.
Right.
That's last time when I renewed it. I notified the committee, and I got with HR, and we started working the process.
Okay.
But could I ask, are you looking for, like, everybody to say?
Well, I
some
think
kind
it would be appropriate, because when it does come to the chair, you
I don't wanna
you
have
would
to
either
call a
have to
special meeting,
reconvene
right.
a meeting to say, I have a contract, and will you acknowledge this? But it takes a number of months to work that contract, the specifics of a contract and the bureaucracy of
Sure.
the matter. But the ordinance calls for the committee, basically, for it says at least 6 months out. The intent, I think, of the contract is one, at least to give me a notion, no, John, you're wasting your time, don't do this.
Right, it says
Or,
to-
yes, hey,
It says the committee will determine
like
whether
you
or
and we
not
think we're
we
gonna
would
do
like
this.
you
Yeah.
back. Okay.
yeah.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Sure.
I think Commissioner Kreidel brings up a good point, but the process, by saying this committee intends to renew, doesn't lock the committee into the renewal, because the contract
Right.
has to be acceptable.
Yes.
If we all believe that if the chair spots, of course you can't talk to us, but if the chair spots something that might require the entire committee, you could then call a meeting. But I do believe by the wording, this committee does have to voice its intent within 6 months, that whether you have a meeting before December 23rd, which is entirely up to the committee or the chair, or whether you do it today. It doesn't lock you in necessarily, but it does start the process.
It shows the intent to,
Yeah.
Right.
And so we're sort of affirming a negative. We can't think of why not, so.
well, I hope it's more than that, but
Right. Would every commissioner like to say, Commissioner Cowett, would you like to say something about? Oh, sorry, it was, I want to work down.
Well, it sounds like we just need a motion of our
would be
desire
so much
to
easier.
renew the contract.
I think
And
that would be easier. Are you making that
I
motion?
am.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion by Commissioner Howitt, second by Vice Chair Kreidel. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, you got
okay,
it.
thank you very much. And again, I love what I'm doing. I appreciate all your support and your comments and guidance that you've provided over the 8 years that it's coming up on the 8-year mark. And again, I just can't say enough about really the successes of the office has been from the great folks who work here. And so, thank you very much. Again, this is just a list. This will be in our audit plan that you will see. It's already in the audit plan that has gone out in the past, and it's also will be in our annual report. These are just some of the carry on audits that we're doing in the future, talking about future events. A lot of audits that were in the process will be continuing from this last year's audit plan. And then these are areas that we're going to be looking into this coming in. Other than these are some of the areas that we're going to be looking into. Particularly, we'll probably be doing some audits on the COVID-19 related audits, how that money's been more detail, how that money is being spent and accounted for, and then more contract agreements, construction, where we're really trying to look, in fact, we're in the process now of in a construction audit, because those are big dollars. Okay, summary of everything we've done to date. We listen since we've been in existence as an office since 2010. Thousands of people who've been able to call for us that if we didn't handle it, we direct them to the right folks where they can go. Save taxpayer dollars. It was question cost money that we found for potential savings. Recommendations, over 1,000 recommendations we've made since we've been here with a 95% acceptance. Sharing best practice, preventing bad practices. Again, hold people accountable. Directly from our audits and investigations, 19 arrests or prosecutions that have come directly out of ours, and over 200 cases referred to law enforcement or commissions on ethics, state and local, in just 11 years. That concludes my brief. If there are any comments or questions, I'm all ears.
Thank you. Any commissioner have comments? Commissioner Howitt.
Thank you. Thank you again for your good work, and hopefully by our vote, you see we have great confidence in you and in your office. But I do have a couple of questions. One is on the audit, planned audit activities with regards to IT network security and application security. And so you have subject matter experts in network security on staff?
We're going to do some basic audits on this that we're not going to do, these are going to be some basic audits about, and they do these at the federal level too. They're called FISMA assessments, Federal Information Security Management, which does not require an IT expert. If we do, we have our IT expert assistant, Jeff Whaley, right here,
Yeah.
who is an IT expert who will be assisting in these. But basically, these are checklist type audits. The bottom line, do you have a policy in place? Do you change, do you require passwords being renewed every so often? And so these are checklists. I laugh. My son is a vice president for IT of a major corporation, and I've talked to him about it. He said, "Dad, you get these are so simple. You can do these, Dad." But there are basic things that everybody should be doing. These are basic that will try to prevent ransomware. Do you have backups? I mean, these are basic questions we all would, how do you back this information up? Some of these basic things that I'm afraid we've found over the past few years, we've seen in the news, some of our cities do not have some basic backups, and they got in real trouble when, they had a ransomware attack or something. When people leave the organization, do you delete their account? We found in our audits, we find that doesn't happen. When people leave responsibilities in the IT system, when they change duties, do you change it up in the IT system? So these are all basic things, but things that get our folks in trouble. So unfortunately, we've tried to hire auditors who are IT specialists, and they are just so hard to come by. And they are high demand for us to come by that are getting paid out in the private sector, quite a bit more. So we've tried, we've hired some, and then they've left us, so we've hired some, we've trained some, and then they've left. So we thought, okay, we're going to quit waiting to get the expert. What do they say? The enemy of getting something done is perfection, and so we're just going to do it.
Okay.
So thank you for that question.
And then I also had a question, I think I've asked this before, but that's the problem with meetings every 6 months.
Yes.
It's hard to remember. When, in your like ongoing audits and ongoing investigations, when you have current 6 months and previous 6 months, are any of those numbers overlapping?
No, yes. On the chart where it says current investigations.
Right.
On that one category, some investigations are still ongoing the next 6 months. And so if they're not new, that's a snapshot at the end of that 6-month period, that one chart. Here are the investigations, all investigations ongoing today on, for example, ours on September 30th. So it's a snapshot. So it's not a total of what we've done, but it gives you an idea of the volume that we're doing.
So when
they
we
may
look at, for example, ongoing audits, current 6 months are 13, previous 6 months are 12. Would the 13 include some of the ones from the previous 6 months?
Yes.
Okay.
It
was
would. If an audit overlapped and continued, it would be in that category.
Okay.
Yes.
And then my final question is whether there would be some method of having information regarding how long various activities are taking. So, you know, I just think about, for example, DCF maintains sort of records on how long an investigation takes on average, understanding some take longer, some take shorter, but it is, you know, one way to sort of see how productive things are, and whether there's some way of incorporating that into the reporting in terms of investigations, the length of time it takes, the length of time for an audit, you know, on average. I think that might help, because some of the numbers are impressive. Some of them, when I average them out over 12 months or 11 years, you know, I'm like, that's not so impressive. I mean, nothing personal, but that's where, you know, a concrete number doesn't necessarily
Yes.
tell a story versus what the time is that the whole process took.
That's an outstanding question and recommendation. We'll incorporate that. So for all the folks, we'll incorporate the average time. And I think you'll be impressed, because Carrie's rule, and they all will kind of smile when they hear this, Carrie doesn't like anniversaries. You know, any report, you know, I don't like investigations, audits going over a year. You know, our goal is to get them done, you know, 6 months, no more than a year. And sometimes it happens, particularly investigations. We've got a few that we've been working with the law enforcement or the federal investigations, and that's really, when you're working with the FBI, really takes that investigation and will show, you know, skew the investigative matters. But non-criminal investigations and audits, again, I just think they should be done within no more than a year, or else, you know, people have some real explaining to do why, and there's reasons. So that's my goal. And I know some IGs on the audits, and that's why I've tried to, like for audits, they say, well, it can't be done. Well, yes, it can. We just limit the scope. And if we need to do another audit, we'll do another audit. But we limit the scope because part of our IG standards in our federal IG standards is timeliness. And a report is no good if it's a history book instead of actionable information. So I know some IGs that have over 3 years or more audits, and I've received these, on the other hand, when I was operations in the Marine Corps, and it's usually like, thank you very much, that was 2 administrations ago, and we already did that one, or it's not applicable now, and it's a big, thick, unusable, it's a good doorstop. So anyway, that's a great point, and we'll incorporate that.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you,
Thank you,
Chair.
Commissioner Howe. That was an excellent idea. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question and a brief comment on your City of Lake Worth 2021 A0007 review. and your recommendations. The question is, and this is just for my information, you identified or recommended that the city implement an independent review process for discretionary funds, purchasing cards, P cards, purchases by the city manager. Was that the earlier city manager? I mean, they
Yes.
just, okay, so.
That was the previous city manager.
Previous city
Yes.
manager, just want to clear that up.
Yes.
And number two, from that, at the state attorney's office, public corruption unit, we get a number of complaints that come in and some investigations involving the use of P cards. And looking at agencies within your jurisdiction and outside your jurisdiction, like the school board, many of the complaints or many of the alleged activity that's deficient is due to lax policies.
Yes.
Or no policies, for that matter. An ounce of prevention, as you know and as you preach, is better than the aftermath of prosecution or ethics violations. So, as you are aware of best practices, do you think it would be something that the IG could do in terms of your outreach and training to be able to look at the purchasing card especially, or the discretionary traveling funds of the municipalities, and the county's pretty much there, but look at the municipalities and review so that they can do the best practices within each municipality and avoid your having to come down on a person or a unit or the state attorney's office or the state or local commission on ethics.
Yeah, that's a great question and comment. And we do, Hillary, we have done, I mean, I don't know, multiple audits on purchasing. When we go in, that's a routine thing we look at the cities. And we find things, we've even put out tips and trends and shared this when, in the past, when COVID's over again, we're going to get city managers together, that we have meetings with city managers often and try to share best practices on purchasing cards. So we have done a number of audits, and even our audits that are involved in revenue and bigger picture will usually always take a look at those purchasing cards. So we do that, and we talk with the state attorney's public corruption unit often, and we really we try to share information, things we're doing, and we ask them, hey, share if they find some city that wasn't criminal, but yet, hey, here's a problem, to let us know, because what we can do that the state attorney or law enforcement can't do, they either prosecute or not. Well, we can go in and do a review, and we can make recommendations, formal recommendations, and then we follow up on those recommendations to make sure they're implemented. Where law enforcement, they're about prosecution or not, where we're that in the middle. And so,
Right.
Yes.
One additional thing that could be done if you're not doing it is maybe get together with the League of Cities and actually do a training. Because when you're only using the audits, for example, you're only reaching a small minority
Yes.
of the municipalities. If you did a training once a year
Yep.
for all of them, and maybe at one of their meetings,
Yes.
and say, these are the best practices, don't get caught flat-footed, don't make us have to go over there. That might be really good, but whatever, it's great, you're doing a great job, and I'm just thinking of the prevention aspect.
I'd
That's
love that. They have had us out there before, not recently. I'd love to be out there. I have to be invited. And I've also there's another
Their
meeting,
executive director
there's somebody
is in
here
the
that might
audience.
help. There's other meetings that all the city managers outside of the League of City, they meet periodically. And Richard, what's the name of that, where they meet?
It's Palm Beach City County Managers Association.
Yeah, the Palm
And
Beach.
you go to that all the
I
time.
do.
We have meetings, and our people get 4 hours of training every year.
Yeah, so we do, but yeah, the League of Cities, but the managers is usually where I go, the city managers meetings. Haven't been there for a while because of COVID, and they've had a lot of theirs, but I hope to get out. But thank you, that's a great recommendation, and we want to keep pushing on that. And that is, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Thank you.
Thank you,
gentlemen.
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner DeGraffenreich.
Yes. One quick question. I was looking at your stats over the last 11 years. Have you all ever considered the addition of legal staff?
Yes,
So the onus is not on Ms. Dillard, and maybe Ms. Dillard going up, obviously with this substantial pay increase.
Yes.
And maybe a lesser person coming in to assist her,
Yeah.
and maybe bump these figures up a little bit?
yeah. We have considered that at different times. I am, in fact, right now, considering, hiring another attorney, and if, we could use that with our procurement, on the procurement side and assist. So we've thought about that. Again, they have 40 people, we have 27, but certainly, yeah. On the 40-person table of organization, which the county, when the office was originally established 11 years ago, which the county commission approved, a 40-person table of organization. No, I just want to make sure, I'm sorry, we can hear Commissioner DeGraffenreich with your microphone on. Okay.
Thank you.
So with, on the 40-person organization, we rate another attorney. But again, we never have been fully funded at that. So at 27 for the years, one has pushed. I mean, Calinthia, she works, around the clock more than really she should, and we really task her not only for her counsel, but she's also she's a leader in the office, and a great leader and a great partner. And so thank you. Yeah, I've considered that, and still considering that we probably, even though we're sure, I keep thinking when we get the next few people, that's one of the positions I would want to have. But like everything else, if we don't get it, we might just have to make that decision.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because I was looking at the budget, and I was thinking somewhere in that $3.7 million, there was a little wiggle room.
Yeah.
Now, I have one more question, and I am done. The complaint that you had against the fire department?
Yes.
Was that in the last 6 months?
In the last 6 months, it happened in this 6-month period, but at the last IG committee, since it was just in the news, it was in the news, it was in this 6-month period, but the report came out, as I recall, I think we had mentioned, this was happening, but it was in this 6-month period that happened.
Okay, but this is the same instance, not another
Stu, can you
fire
help me out
station
here?
doing the same thing.
There's a gap between the end of the 6-month period and the IG committee meeting. So this report was
Okay.
public. It came out during this 6-month period, but just before the IG committee met.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
We heard about it last time, but it was part of the
Okay.
yeah, so the gap, I'll say it on the microphone.
yes, thank you.
So the
Okay.
public can hear that and the recorder. But yes, you were briefed about this, but it was the reason is just like right now, what is this date? It's November, but the reporting period ended in September 30th. And that report came out in the gap time, even though I was reporting on the last 6 months. But since it was in the news, I kind of sometimes I'll give you, when some are in the news and newsworthy, even though I'll say, this is really in the next 6 months, but here's what happened, this has been in the news, if you happen to have any questions about it. So
Okay.
it was briefed.
That's
but it was
fine. I
because
just
the
wanted to make
report
sure it
came
was the
out-
same one.
It was the same
And not a
one.
pattern of other
No.
fire stations doing the same thing.
No,
Okay.
it's the same one, and I just happened, because it was briefed in that period, but by the end of that 6-month period and the start, and it was around the time of the committee,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you, Commissioner DeGraffenreich. Vice Chair Crydell, do you have? any further
Yes,
comments?
I don't have any comments about your report in general. I will say, though, as someone who teaches fraud detection and fraud prevention around the country, the most effective means of purchasing card control is training. Then frequent and sometimes confrontational discussions between management and the user. Last is prosecution.
Yes.
But training is the most effective, and certainly internal controls is a second.
I agree, 100%. And again, we continue to push for training. We put a lot of things out on tips and trends. Our push with the county, I have to say, we have a great training relationship usually, and we're getting out. With the cities, it's still a
Hit and miss?
challenge, with a number of them, to invite the IG. We have a couple of cities, particularly Boynton Beach, invites us out, and there's a number of cities that have. Delray has invited us out before. Hey IG, could you come in here and do some training? Now, it beats me. I like the IG. I like IG, but a lot of times, folks, it's just hard to get somebody to say, "Oh, IG, will you come here and train us?" It's a challenge to keep pushing at that. We have some cities that are good, and again, a number of them who, thank you very much. We'll keep that in mind. But we have to be asked. Unlike, I wish we had, if we were ever to change the ordinance, somehow to incorporate us in the every 4-year ethics training. Even if we just had a nod to the IG, would be nice. Oh, hey, by the way, there's an IG and they do this. But even more, if we could somehow be incorporated in team with the Commission on Ethics to get us out. Because do you think the Commission on Ethics, they may be invited out to train if it wasn't a requirement? But it's much more of a requirement or much more of a challenge when it's not a requirement.
Sure.
Thank you, Vice Chair Cradell. The only comment I'll make is that thank you, your staff, for continuing the excellent job that you've done for the past 8 years, and that we imagine you're going to continue to do as soon as the contract is signed. Okay, is there any public comment about I think Mr. Radcliffe has something.
Yes, Richard Radcliffe, Executive Director for the Palm Beach County League of Cities. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. Relative to the training, because I'd like to two things. One thing is correct some of the things about the training. We do bring in John Kerry every time because of COVID, we don't do newly elected officials workshop, but we used to do that and bring that in. Also, the elected officials, it's not once every 4 years, it's 4 hours every year. And we just had one last month. Mark Bannon recently will be retiring. Thank you for years of service. But Mark has been here since the beginning. He came in last month. We did 4 hours. He was there with the incoming executive director. So that's been done. And the other thing that you do meet with the city managers, and he does put out emails that everybody looks for. And quite frankly, and I think I'm going to do it from Commissioner Cridell. That was a good snippet from a professional training. I can do something for the electronic training cards, maybe for everybody. But they learned early on, when you visit, that's the low-hanging fruit. He's going to ding you on that. So come on, guys, shape up. And it's something that you trained them. And that is, to this point, it's been 10 years. Look at those statistics. They're fantastic, phenomenal. You know, Mr. Johnson was here, Mark was here, Commissioner Howitt were here in the beginning. It was 4 out of 7 county commissioners were removed. 3 went to jail. Out of over 200 elected officials, 2 went and did jail time. We thought this was going to be a problem, and we went out and we addressed it. And I think we may have, in following the trainings you're doing and where you're going, we may have the best ethics culture in the United States. And we don't get credit for it. We're looking at the low-hanging fruit in some of these things, which we can't lose our vision and our vigilance. But we have lobbyist registration, maybe the best. They register once, all the cities, 1 fee, unheard of anywhere else. The things that are going on, and we never had anybody in a decade like what started this process a long time ago. And it's because of the people that sit here and all the training that's gone on and the partnerships that we've had with the Commission on Ethics when you were there and when everybody else was there. But I think in the big picture, we may be one of the best, if not the best in the country. We've done a fantastic job. And not that we should turn our backs or say, oh, we know everything, or we've learned everything. But we do a lot of training, bring a lot of people in. And I think at some point, all the people here and the people that have served in this seat need a round of applause from the population. You go into the Rotaries and all these, and nobody says thank you. Nobody's ever in 10 years. They'll use the C word, C County. They'll still try and bring that up. But it's not true. And you're part of the system that I believe is, if not the best, one of the best in the country. But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Radcliffe. That's quite an eloquent statement. Okay. Any more public comment? I don't see any more public. Item 6, new business to come before the Review Commission. Okay. I will move to adjourn. Thank you.